It's the most wonderful time of the year, boys and girls. Labour conference has happened. I've watched it. I do want to die, but I've brought out the best parts, and I thought we'd enjoy the best parts because, hey ho, that's fun.
I like that this has become an annual tradition for you. Ooh, Labour conference. Look how crazy they are today, and they're still crazy, I imagine.
They still are. There has been a significant change, and I think we'll get into that because one thing that's happened that everyone has obviously noted is that new guy, Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
He kind of purged everyone under the age of 40.
Yeah.
And that's where all the proper new Corbynistas were.
Yeah, there were like 170,000 people he purged or left.
So there's been, there's been a negative out of all that, which is it's been less fun to watch. But that doesn't mean they've solved the crazy problem, and they never will because it's a socialist party.
Sure.
So I think we'll enjoy some of the clips, and we shall begin because if I want to make my case, we'll begin with the evidence, which is the first speaker to even come up and speak. She's a pronouner, of course she is. Let's play.
Good morning, conference. Angela Dewden, proud Unite member. And my pronouns are she, her.
Of course they are. That was the very first speaker. The first thing was, I'm she.
First thing, get up. Solidarity fist, she, her.
There was an awful lot of people coming up with their Palestinian landlords still. This was after David Lammy came out being their foreign secretary and just said, no, we stand with Israel 100%. Everyone shut up. Stop doing your thing. I was like, okay.
That's an interesting...
She probably does need to clarify her gender there.
Oh, no, she doesn't. It's obviously a she, her.
But that's the reason I always include it, because I think we sort of lose eventually listening to people say their pronouns endlessly. What is the purpose of that exactly?
Yeah.
Because as you rightly point out, are you really saying that you're that ugly? We can't tell. Because what else are you saying exactly?
Well,
Even
occasionally,
people you can tell that they're male or female.
Very, very occasionally, you'll get someone that's like very, very androgynous, and they've deliberately chosen a haircut, and it's not clear. But that's so rare, isn't it? That's a really, really rare thing in reality.
I hardly think of any occasions where that's really been the case. But I mean, it definitely does happen occasionally.
But my point for bringing it up is just to remind everyone, like, this is insane. No one else in the world does this but Westerners, and I'm not accepting at any point this is minor or normal.
It's not just Westerners either. It's a very narrow constituency of Westerners.
True indeed. But we'll go on to the next one, which is I get to a point of policy, which is apparently we need, as she puts it, neurodiverse representation in the leadership, which is a very polite leftist way of saying we need more actually
crazy people.
Yeah, crazy people in the leadership. Otherwise, I don't see myself there. Let's play that.
I am a neurodiverse person, and I do believe in equality as representation, but I feel we need that representation within the leadership roles. That's what we should be doing. I want people with disabilities, people who are LGBTQ+, people who are BAME. I want them in the center.
I'm just thinking of the Labour front bench and thinking, don't you have that already?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're not the brightest sparks.
I would call the Labour front bench neurodivergent.
What is neurodiverse? Does that just mean mental health? People with mental health issues?
Well, yeah, it means mentally ill.
Yeah.
Or mental, as we used to say.
And she said it in the same breath as BAME and LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Yes. They do that every time.
Yeah.
Without... Yeah, they don't think they notice,
Remember,
mate. It's really weird.
They say minorities, women, disabled people, all that sort of thing. And it's like, yep.
It also frames it as anyone that isn't that is sort of normal.
That's true, yeah.
Right. And there's like the subnormal.
Yeah.
Is
definitely the framing they use.
But that's what all these words are for. Neurodivergent, cis people. It's a way of marginalizing a normal person, as Norm rightly points out.
Yeah.
But I do love it. I mean, I just ended up, I'll admit, I did kind of lose it at my desk when I was editing that, because she was there being like, yes, I'm mentally retarded and I would like more retarded representation, or I don't see myself in this party. I was like, okay.
I just want, honest to God, schizoids leading the party. Is that all I'm asking?
Is that too much to ask?
Yeah, exactly. That's perfectly reasonable if you compress every category into a position of equality and can draw no value distinction between them.
Well, I love that actually works with intersectional dogma as well. Like, you can legitimately argue that there aren't enough people smearing their feces on the wall.
Yeah.
I do that, and I can't see it represented in the leadership, says the local Labour Party politician. And that's a serious position. No one booed that aspect of her speech.
No, there's applause.
But the logical conclusion is that you'd end up saying things like, I want deaf mutes.
There's not enough mute representation.
I want actual vegetables to be represented in the leadership. Like, I mean,
That's literally where they get to, yeah. That's how John Fetterman got where he got. Right?
You're not wrong, actually.
I'm not joking. They genuinely don't. They genuinely don't feel that there is a value difference between categories of person. That's what equality means to them. And so anyone with any form of categorization is the same as every other. And so someone who is like a Nobel Prize winner, Herculean bodybuilder, and the conquering hero is the same as the deaf mute vegetable Labour Party member.
And they all need to be represented if this is a real democracy.
Exactly. And they're being oppressed if they're not being
there seems to be really no limit to the absurdity. It's like, I want a small child. I want a dead person.
Yeah.
I want a fetus. Like
it's not enough dead representation.
Yeah.
Dead people are 99% of all people, don't you know?
Yeah, dead lives matter or something.
But no, but you're absolutely right. There is no limit to the absurdity. And that's why James Lindsay's conceptual penis and Peter Boghossian and Helen Pluckrose's, like their sort of attempt to kind of culture jam, like with the fat bodybuilding and stuff like that, it made no impression on the left because they're like, essentially it's like an undiscovered country, right? So you've got what you can see, and then they sort of illuminate this area of the map going, oh, well, what about fat bodybuilding? It's like, yeah, but that is two intersections that just no one had done yet.
What about neurodivergent leadership?
Yeah, well, that's just two intersections. Like all of these things are just as valid to the left.
This is why I love doing this and why I think it really is the most wonderful time of the year, because we actually do get to see. It's not just insane
Callum's
stuff.
Christmas comes early.
Yeah, but it's genuinely not just insane stuff, because the insane stuff is funny and there's, a ha-ha element. But you're entirely correct, which is that we discover in real time new countries.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking about this 24/7 and then stand on a stage in front of thousands of people on a live stream and say it. So there we are. Neurodivergent leadership now. Where is I'm just imagining, how they're always like, I'm the first woman prime minister, I'm the first brown person. I'm the first mentally retarded prime minister, and then there's just applause from like crowds of people.
They will one day be like, we're the first Down syndrome prime minister.
Yeah,
and like literally,
the Downs have been oppressed for so long.
Yeah, quadriplegic prime minister.
Oh,
like they will demand it all because it exists.
And we say this as like haha funny, but genuinely they do believe that, and we'll end up there.
Yeah.
So there we are. I suppose we'll move on to the next clip though, because she did an oopsie, which I think she misspoke, but it led to her getting denounced by the party immediately after she finished her speech. So I think that might be this clip. So let's play that one.
It doesn't help to have a disabilities officer who struggles to make meetings. It doesn't help to be a token person.
I was also incredibly disappointed to hear ableism on this stage. And I quote, "It doesn't help to have a disabilities officer who struggles to make meetings." Conference, if your disabled members struggle to make meetings, then you need to fix that, not use it as an excuse to deny us voting rights on executive committees. The very fact that this went unchallenged by the chair, as they should call out any discrimination on this stage, demonstrates why it is so important that disabled people always have a seat at the table. And I can tell you from experience that if that space isn't mandated, then it is very rarely available to us.
So I'll have to describe it because there's been a bug, so we can't hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can fix that, John, because it kind of doesn't work if I don't have the clips. But the lady who was speaking before stands up and talks about how it doesn't help if you have a dementia officer who can't organize meetings, which obviously is true.
Yeah,
why would you have someone in charge of your local branch?
Does their dementia officer have dementia?
Well, that's the point, essentially.
Is it literally representation in all things?
So here's the thing about, because we've done some local politics in the UK, and it's the same between UKIP and the Conservatives, I found, which is that you have a chairman, and then you have a secretary, and the chairman hosts the meetings, decides the events, the secretary organizes who's coming and whatnot, and then maybe you have a campaign officer or something weird like that who helps with the actual campaigning, and that's pretty much about it. That's all the officer positions you need. In the Labour Party, it seems they do things differently. They insisted that they have a load more roles that could be filled. And I don't really know how many there are, but there seems to be about 30, because there's an LGBTs officer. That can be a thing. There's a diversity officer who literally is for the babes. Yeah. And then you have, I don't know if there's a dementia officer. Maybe it's just disabled person's officer instead, but that person happened to have dementia.
But remember, for these particular categories, you need to recruit from within the category.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not fair.
Otherwise, it's not representation.
But I just, so the lady who then gets up after her But she, the insane person from before then makes a sensible point of maybe we shouldn't have someone with dementia organizing stuff. So then she stands up and denounces her as being, discriminatory against disabled people for saying this. Which, what do you expect, I suppose?
Yeah. The deaf mute representation isn't getting back to us.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as someone has a clairvoyant, just sensible thought of maybe we should help disabled people.
Clairvoyancy. You don't need that.
Maybe our leaders shouldn't have dementia. They might not be the best at remembering things. And then suddenly the next speaker is just like, I'd like to denounce the previous speaker. She's being discriminatory against our, mentally handicapped commissar.
Just to be clear, we're not in favor of, unnecessary discrimination, but there are certain functions that a person has to fulfill. Like, I always use the example, I'm 5'9", I'm never going to be able to play basketball. That's fine, and sometimes you just have to accept your physical limitations and things.
Sounds like nonsense to me.
Yeah,
whatever you want.
These people are less crazy and obnoxious than under the Corbyn years as well. This has been dialed down slightly.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Right.
I must say. So there we have it. This is actually a return to normalcy as they'd advertise. So I suppose we go on to the next clip, and hopefully it works for us. This is them talking about that they have discovered a new achievement in life. They still haven't got a woman leader and never will, but they will have the first woman chancellor.
800 years, over 100 names, and all of them men. When Labour forms the next government at the next election, that is going to change because Rachel Reeves will be Britain's first female chancellor.
Truly incredible.
It's amazing that women in the Labour Party have got such low expectations, though, because the Conservatives have had 3 female prime ministers, and the Labour are like, well, maybe we'll get a female chancellor.
Yeah.
So,
who would that be? Thornbury?
God only knows. Can you even imagine?
Emily Thornbury?
Oh, no, it's not her. It's some other woman, which we're going to take a look at in a minute, I suppose, actually, because, should we take a look at her work? The lady they want to be the first female chancellor?
Just a quick thing, John, while that's happening, can you close and reload the playlist in the thing? Because I don't...
Yeah, we still can't hear
it. The first one worked fine. Don't know why the second and third ones were just not.
Yeah.
So, not your fault, but if you can just give it a go. Cheers.
So whilst we're doing that, we're going to go and check out. So this is the lady.
Oh, yeah.
You have any idea who she is? Do you care?
Rachel Reeves.
Literally who?
Yeah, no, the name does ring a bell. I have seen something about her.
But the thing is, it's just a complete nobody. There's nothing there whatsoever. There's no interest. She's not done anything of worth that they advertise.
Average Labour Party politician.
And that's their most put forward position of we will achieve a female chancellor, a person in charge of the money.
Yeah, but wait, before Diane Abbott. Here's our people of note. Emily Thornbury, ooh. Diane Abbott, ooh. Jess Phillips, oh, Jesus Christ.
I think Emily Thornbury is the shadow foreign sec, but I've seen her in interviews and she's, as you can imagine, completely uninspiring.
Yes.
Yeah. But you can see here, that's not her only problem.
Keir Starmer's cabinet is uninspiring.
Well, that's the thing about this whole shift, because you went from the Corbyn years that were quite exciting to now grey and dull. That seems to be the strategy to win.
Yeah.
Which, a bit weird. But you can see here, that's not her only problem. Her biggest problem here is that she decided to release a book after conference, where she was like, guys, here's my economic plan. And it turns out she plagiarized all of it, which is doubly hilarious because, as noted from this review here in the Financial Times, where they're just comparing paragraphs at some points, where they're just like, well, this is exactly the same. Word for word.
She plagiarized it from who?
Wikipedia.
All right. Okay. All right.
The hardest of...
go back up. That was literally identical.
Yes.
Or virtually identical.
I mean, you could...
what a professional embarrassment.
Yeah, can you even imagine?
But the best part is that one of...
we didn't even do that at undergrad. Wouldn't dream of doing it. Let alone to...
Let alone writing it in a book. So now it's imprinted there forever.
To the whole country. She denies that she's plagiarized any of this, which doesn't work when we have the quotes next to each other, but whole other issue. The best part is, because again, some weirdo released a book. Her book is about how women are not given the credit for their work or ideas.
The irony.
And then she plagiarized all of it from other people. That's the person that they're advertising as oh, guys, we're going to have a first female chancellor. It's not even a nobody. It's you've fallen at the first hurdle.
We can't help but give the people who wrote what you're claiming is yours the real credit.
But at a glance there, it looks largely, if not entirely, just a cut and paste job.
Yes.
because you're sort of allowed or expected on some level. It's impossible to avoid paraphrasing things you've seen or read.
Well,
but to cut and paste, I mean, there's no excuse.
Well, you see here, they have. She went from
So
FWG
largely, right? Yeah.
to Fabian Woman's Group. She wrote out the whole name. That's pretty cool. Hard work right there.
I mean, look at the one above from Wikipedia. It's literally word for word, apart from the daughter of veteran Fabian member, the daughter of veteran Fabian Sidney Oliver. So, okay, brilliant. That's not even paraphrasing.
She's not the only instance as well of them being like, women. There was a couple of other times. I won't play the clips because we don't have time. There's one where some woman comes out and says that she's the first Scottish woman to host the UK section of the NEC meeting this year.
Whoa.
Really
Wow.
making strides. There's also now...
Finally, Scottish women can get ahead.
Yeah.
This is what progress looks like. Okay.
Which I just kind of really enjoy this. Because it is kind of funny how they have completely given up on the old intersectional moon landing of like female prime minister. Because
I like that intersectional moon landing. That's a good phrase.
Because that's the thing about the space race is everyone brings up those charts and they're like, well, the Soviets were the first man in space, first object in space, first rover on the moon, first object on Mars, first object on Venus. No one cares. First man on the moon's what anyone cares about.
And the Labour Party have literally lost all of those races. First women prime minister, brown prime minister.
But they'll get the first female chancellor.
I guess so.
So, okay, man, the space race is over.
And the Conservatives won it somehow.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Ugh, just an embarrassment for their own cause there. But that's why it's so funny to me that they seem to have actually just given up on even trying in this space race anymore, and are now just going for the first guy to the North Pole after everyone's been to the moon. But anyway, we'll go back to the clips if we can play them, because there's a couple more which are pretty good. The next one here is them talking about the most important issue of the day to workers in this country, which is racist and sexist AI.
New laws to protect us from discriminatory algorithms, because remember, conference, it is human beings who write the code that dictates how AI treats us. So it's easy to see how prejudice and inequality can become hardwired into systems.
This means that the legislation will ensure that AI and technology does not discriminate based on age, gender, ethnicity, or sexual orientation.
So they're calling there for AI to be censored in case it discriminates on age, gender, race, etc. Because, of course, as we know, it is a reflection of the people who made it. Whitey.
I mean, that's broadly true.
I mean,
it's, it was probably made by white people, and it probably does look at reality.
To be honest, it's mostly made by Indian people.
Oh, that's probably true too, yeah.
Whole other situation, but that's their workers' rights section, which, great, thanks. I feel very represented. And then we move on, and it's really annoying that we can't hear this on our side. So I don't know what I'll do. But there's a lady who comes out, and she's Jewish, and she lives in London. And of course, after various speeches from David Lammy, etc., about how we stand with Palestine, everyone take your fucking lanyards off.
Yeah.
She comes out to tell everyone that she lives in the most diverse area of London and how wonderful diversity is. But also, it's a lot of Jew hatred recently where I live. Let's enjoy her.
We have watched in horror at the events unfolding in the Middle East. Our news feeds and WhatsApp groups are full of painful stories of women and children crouched in their homes in fear, hostages taken and some killed, young people who went to a music festival and never came back. In Finchley and Golders Green, we have neighbours from every continent, from pretty much every religion, and I'm proud of that. In Finchley, we celebrate our diversity. Our diversity is our strength. Over the weekend, in the beating heart of Golders Green, graffiti was daubed in the high street, a kosher restaurant was vandalized, and this morning, Jewish schools have advised their students to stop wearing uniforms due to safety fears. I cannot express how this feels.
Literally can't be explained.
Kosher restaurant was vandalized by the diversity.
Diversity is our strength. I can't believe she said the meme and then told us about how there's been loads of anti-Jewish attacks. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is consistent.
Obviously, a bunch of white supremacists say MI5.
I'm sure. There is one more thing to mention on that, which is some, I don't know, good news, bad news? I don't really know what to make of it.
News. Yeah.
There's news for sure, which is, of course, because the Labour Party has decided it stands with Israel 100%, they've lost the entirety of the Muslim vote, 93% of the Muslim vote, in fact.
No way.
93% of Muslims who would have voted Labour are now saying they won't vote Labour.
No way.
And the only thing that's changed is their stance on Palestine.
That's wild because, okay, 90% of British Muslims vote for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Because Labour is the party of Islam, or at least was the party of Islam, if only 5% of them remain as Labour voters.
So as you can see, there is a caveat here that they've added. I didn't know about this. The data from a survey, not on aggregated polling.
Right.
But I wouldn't be
even
surprised.
If that plays out even vaguely like that.
The thing is, like, if you look at any of the, the Labour Muslim count, for example, or any of the Labour Muslim MPs, all of them are very, very angry for some reason.
Oh, really? No kidding.
And it is fascinating to see that there does seem to be a proper consciousness around the Muslim bloc that no other group in the UK can even slightly replicate, which is if they don't like something, gone. So you have to stand with us 100%.
Yeah, it's a real shame that, I think.
It's something
crying shame. It's one of those things, isn't there? The connection between, broadly speaking, leftist, socialist, liberal with a small L issues and Islam. Remember I think it's in actual Jess Phillips's constituency when there was that school.
Yeah.
They tried to teach LGBTQ stuff, and it was the Muslim parents that got up in arms. And you have to pick a side. You sort of have to pick a side. I think Jess Phillips went with the LGBT side of things.
And they told her to go away.
At some point, if I could try and predict the future, at some point, an existing party like Labour or the Lib Dems or the Greens or whatever won't be enough for the Muslim vote. They'll form their own party and sort of all go en masse, start voting for that, like the Islamic
Like
Party
they did
of
in
Britain
Belgium.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that will become a force in and of for itself, entirely of its.
Quite possibly, yeah.
To be honest, I kind of see that as a good move for us, because at least like we're operating on an honest platform then. Like we know where the Muslim Party is, it's there, rather than people not really understanding en masse.
They're not just using the Labour Party as a host.
Yeah, that probably would be better. But I'll end this off with the last clip here, which is a local lady who also tells us that she lives in the most diverse area of London. In fact, it's so diverse, as she says, there's large amounts of violent crime. Her words. Okay.
The words are about to come out my mouth are the experiences of a 19-year-old teenager from an ethnic minority background. As much as I love my exotic olive-coloured skin, people like me, unfortunately, more likely to be victims of all kinds of violence. I'm from London, the most multicultural city in the world, however, also a city that has the highest proportion of people like my parents, immigrants of ethnic minority background. Statistically, women like my mum are more likely to be victims of every kind of violence, however, also least likely to report any kind of violence. Why, you may be wondering, conference? Because of this Tory government.
I mean, in a roundabout way, she's right? I live in the most ethnically diverse part of London. Crime's really high. It's the Tories' fault. Yes, in a way, that's true.
She says that she's the most likely to be a victim of sexual violence because of the Tory government.
And that's kind of true.
Because she lives in a diverse area.
Well, they're the ones who brought in 1 million immigrants a year. The Labour Party didn't do that.
No, they did not.
So it's, in a way, she's kind of right. But what I love about people like this is you can tell that these are like, 105 IQ midwits. And she's never had...
That's a bit high.
I'm being charitable. She's never had a single critical thought of her own in her entire life. And so you can just hear ideology pouring through her noise hole, and it's just, you've got, this person has nothing novel to say in any aspect of her life.
There's literally zero ability to recognize any patterns. And we had it from the previous speaker as well.
Well, it's the Tories, man. Consistent pattern. The Tories have always been in charge every time she's been mugged or assaulted.
I mean, we're going to get onto it later, but I do wonder. I mean, she's a particularly funny example. At least she's young enough to be stupid. But like the older lady there who's Jewish, I mean...
Not all young people are stupid.
There's a trend with Labour Party members that the youngest ones are the most insane. That's all I'm saying. But if you go to like the older lady there, I mean, usually they're a little less like ideologically mental. But she can't even recognize a pattern when she's facing violence in her own neighborhoods as a result of the diversity she herself celebrates. What do you do?
It's that idea that the actual criminal themselves have no agency, aren't responsible for the thing.
Yes, that's
so.
Exactly.
Where you say she's kind of right that it's the Tories' fault, well, yeah, but only in an indirect sense.
Yeah,
it's the actual individual sex criminals and or whatever that are
we would blame.
ultimately responsible.
We would blame them because we believe they have agency and they make decisions. But she views the criminal as a victim of society and totally incapable of challenging the social structures that made them rape her in an alleyway or whatever.
And someone like her
Jesus,
absolutely have to cling on to that 100%, not recognise any chinks in that argument, that logic. Otherwise, obviously, the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think they're not bright enough to see the chinks in it.
I mean, I hate to be that guy who is you. It's just a boring criticism. Where it's just like, man, these people are stupid. But come on, like, what do you want me? What is the truth here?
I
They
don't
do seem
think
to be.
it'd be that stupid. I think it's just deliberately failing to pretending you don't understand. I mean,
Oh man, I don't
know. I think a lot of them really are quite thick.
But we have to end this off because I've run over time, unfortunately. But you can go and see more of it on lotuseaters.com. I put the full thing together there. That was just the best bits of the clips. The whole thing is, of course, best bits of best bits. So do go and enjoy. And if you want to check out the previous years, we also have them. And this is what I mean by people like this chap here with the trans women and women.
Gender. You don't know their pronouns.
Okay. This person didn't turn up this year, and a lot of other such people didn't. But there are still a few. I mean, like this guy here with his Che Guevara speech, his endless stickers as well. And he actually came back. So there are some. Like, I'm getting to the point now where I can recognize them by face.
Right, yeah.
So there's that. But an awful lot have been purged.
I thought we were going to talk all about the heart and soul of the Labour Party, and I'd brushed up on sort of Clement Attlee and Michael Foot and stuff. But I guess...
Do you think any of these people know who any of those people are?
But there is a relevance, though, because, I mean, I was talking to before, rightly, about the purge they had to get rid of the insane types.
Right, yeah.
And as Carl points out, like 100,000 have gone.
170,000.
I mean, was that old purge actually successful ever?
Yeah, I think so. So, well, if I just say a very few quick words on the heart and soul of the Labour Party, ever since the beginning, ever since the Ramsay MacDonald years, there's always been some sort of conflict between sort of very hardline proto-commies, full-blown Che Guevara type Maoist, Stalinist types, and just your wishy-washy social democrat types. I mean, Blair is a great example where from the Michael Foot years getting less and less extreme through Kinnock. Anyway, you get to Blair and he changes Article 4 in their creed to get rid of, the means of production are actually owned by the working classes. Yeah. Change that to something a lot more vague, like let's just make the best opportunities for the many instead of the few. Things like that. There's always been...
They also banned them from saying comrades at conference as well.
So obviously Corbyn took them very far left just overnight.
Yeah.
And Starmer, although I don't want to give him any credit for anything ever, but you've got to say he has at least tried to purge the party.
He's been ruling the party with an eye
of these sort of ultra obnoxious morons.
Yeah. He's been quite merciless to them, to be honest. He ban Corbyn, ban like all these people, yeet out the NEC and all these.
Make sure John McDonnell sits firmly at the back.
Yeah.
I've got to give him that, if nothing else.
Cause it so that all of the like insane Corbynites just like, oh, I'm leaving. It's like in Starmer's defense, he has ruled like Stalin, so good job.
Yeah, like Diane Abbott, bye now.
Well, he didn't go. Did he kick out Diane Abbott?
No, she's not kicked out, but she's not.
She's way in the long run.
Yeah.
Who the hell is she anymore?
She's not near the centre of power, is she?
She's not in the front.
Shadow power,
like she was with Corbyn.
Right, yeah.
But I don't want people to forget that they are still mad. You can go and watch them live if you want to see the madness. And I have to save you about 50 hours of your life. So there we are.
God, it is really revealing though that because I mean Starmer came in being like Jeremy Corbyn's Jew hatred that's got to stop, and suddenly the Muslims like, well, we're out.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on debating liberalism. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.